customers always knew that they got quality attention to go along with the quality equipment, and that an Allen Bradley person was always going to be available to them to help them with their problems. And this is what made the company unique and made it so great, and why the Allen Bradley brand is still very well recognized and very well thought of worldwide.
Well, we were always, even in my early beginnings, very customer-oriented and employee-oriented. But you could call Jim Fields, or you could even get a hold of Fred Look in the early days, and even on the weekend, and they would go and get a product for you down out of the manufacturing area, the storeroom area, to service a customer. So it was really, today we talk about this 7x24. We were doing that back in the 60s, and that's carried through over the years.
One of the areas that you would go through as a trainee, you would sit in control sales department. And back then Jim Fields ran the control sales department, and you know, these people were heroes to customers, because we didn't have a service organization then, so there wasn't, you know, if there was a breakdown on a weekend or after hours or something, you know, these were the people that would get the call, perform the magic, get in the factory, somehow get it made or get it sent or whatever.
If a customer needed help, I knew my way around the whole company. So if you were a customer and you needed a certain part, and I knew where that part was, I would go around the company and pick up the part and let you know, so that you could come and pick the thing up and you would have immediate service.
We had an emergency call list where when the guard got a call from a customer, he went right down the list, and we contacted somebody from my department to take care of that customer, regardless of what the expense was. And we had a tough credit manager at that time, Elmer Craning. When I was just off the training program in the sales department, and I get a phone call to had to get the parts out, he would really jump on me because we had to get credit rating Dun & Bradstreet to make certain we get paid. If that got that call on a Saturday, I was concerned what Elmer Craning would say on Monday morning. I knew I was going to catch heck. Fred Lowe came up and said, "Don't worry about it, because if a customer is down, he's going to make certain that we get paid." And out of the 40 years I was at Allen Bradley, those after-hour service, we've never got stood up with a payment. So it paid off. It really paid off.
Distributor salespeople who would attend a Milwaukee Distributor Sales School ended up on the fruitcake list. And every birthday, he or she would get a freshly baked fruitcake that came out of the Allen Bradley bakery. Inside there was a card shaped like an octagon signed by Fred Look, president, Les Watson, distributor sales manager. They're the ones that thought that this effort on the part of the company to remind distributors of their Milwaukee training helped differentiate our company amongst all the other lines that our distributors handled, and it contributed to that effect. And as Allen Bradley salespeople, we also ended up on the fruitcake list, and we too would get a freshly baked fruitcake loaded with the best quality ingredients, just like our products, spiced with just enough bourbon so that it did not exceed the postal regulations, but just added to the flavor.
There is a number of cases where Rockwell Automation deliver our promise. We do it by mobilizing our internal resources as well as our partners. One particular example is that in one of our very important customers in New Zealand, they have to schedule a planned shutdown where they will do scheduled maintenance. To make a long story short, we have to have our freight forwarder in Singapore contacting a CEO of a airline to make the delivery. At the end of the day, everybody come out as a winner. Our customer in New Zealand were able to maintain their scheduled maintenance schedule, and we deliver the product based on our commitment as well as our help from our partners.
And we went in to see the purchasing agent at DuPont, who was a very well-respected gentleman. He was quite old at the time, maybe 64. And I was giving him a general pitch and all about the car. Well, he said, "You've got a little fellow there, little short, stubby guy, that came in to see me one day and he said, if you want to buy our stuff, you buy it the way it is. Because they had some special requirements. So we said we didn't buy anything from you. They hadn't bought anything for 5 or 10 years. So I said, well, times have changed. I said, we're going to redesign this. This thought occurred to me when I was there. We're redesigning the control center now, and we'd like your chief electrical engineer to come in and involve himself in the redesign. Well, we got all kinds of business after that.
I remember calling on Ingersoll Milling and apologizing because we never had a quality problem with any of our industrial control components, but we had quite a bit with our early PLCs, and they said, well, they dealt with other people who were having similar problems, and they said it was really how you backed up your product. And if you look at the success of this company today, we have had problems. Everybody has problems, but it's standing by the product and standing by your customer, which we've never relinquished, which has really given us our reputation today.
GM had a big fire down in one of their plants in northern Indiana, and we turned this whole place upside down to build about, must have been 70 machine tool control panels, relays, starters, big boxes, and we did it in 3 weeks and got them back up. And, you know, we had a lot of other customers that were upset with us for a little while, but GM certainly wasn't.
Our own Harnisch-Fager crane manufacturer here in Milwaukee had been purchasing IEC contactors from one of our competitors, and I believe it was Telemecanique. Well, Harnisch-Fager needed to have a contactor because theirs had failed, and they could not receive them from the French-made Telemecanique. So our Allen Bradley salesperson here in Milwaukee had been calling on them, and they said, look, can you supply us with this contactor? And it turned out to be one of these larger ones. It was one of these 18 ampere contactors. And the guy said, sure, we can do that for you. How many do you need? He said, I need 18 of them. I said, okay, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to place an order. So he placed the order. We got the order that morning. And he called us and said, look, this is kind of important. We can take business away if we can get this order out. How many days do you think it'll take to get it out? I told him, we'll have it out for you by 11 a.m. this morning. You come over here and pick them up, and you can take them there this afternoon. Well, when he arrived at Harnisch-Fager with 18 contactors and said, here you are, the look on their faces was astronomical, saying, how could you do that? Well, we have a facility here that can do that. Tell you what, sometime you come on over and tour the facility. Well, guess who got the contract for Harnisch-Fager crane contactors from that day forward?
We had a major customer that was coming in. This would happen to be the chief engineer from Coors in Denver, Colorado, and his name was Marion Rice. And it was very important because they were planning a major expansion at that time. Marion came into town, and Bill Younger, being the way he was, decided that late in the afternoon, and this is in November, that it was time to actually take Marion Rice and show him the clock tower. The whole clock was built up and everything like this, and this was a real wonder, and you know, people were very proud of it. Well, as it turns out, Marion Rice came in, very interested in Allen Bradley, big project, very important, and Bill Younger insisted that Marion Rice go to the clock tower to see it. Well, Marion didn't want to go because he had a plane to catch, and he didn't want to spend November in Milwaukee at that time. He wanted to get back to Colorado. So at any rate, we went up there. I happens to be the trainee at that point in time, the tour guide. We went up to the top of the clock tower, and as we were on the outside, I shut the door. This is November. This is about 5 o'clock in the evening. There's nobody around. The door is shut. It's cold, and it turns out that there wasn't a lock or a way to open the door. The door automatically locked. We didn't have telephones or anything like that on the outside of the clock tower. So we were wandering around the outside trying to figure out how to get in. We started shouting. Of course, being a trainee at that time, one of the concepts was to take a rope and drag me on the outside of the clock tower and do this thing. Well, we spent about a half an hour doing this, trying to figure out how to get somebody to help us out. It's November, the temperature's dry, Marion Rice is getting torqued off. We've got this massive project coming up. And to make a long story short, Marion finally used a credit card opened up the lock. But from that to this day, now the door has an inside way of getting out, and there's also a telephone out there.